The Golden State Warriors are one of the most iconic franchises in modern basketball. Over the past decade, they've been at the heart of the NBA revolution, changing the way the game is played with their pace, spacing, and three-point shooting. At the center of it all has been Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter of all time, whose influence has reshaped not only the Warriors but basketball globally. But dynasties don't last forever. The 2024-2025 season reminded us of that truth. The Warriors were no longer the invincible juggernaut they once were. They fought, they competed, and they showed flashes of brilliance, but inconsistency, aging stars, and roster issues kept them from returning to the NBA's mountaintop. Now, as we move into the 2025-2026 season, Golden State is in a fascinating position. They've added veteran star Jimmy Butler, giving them another proven winner alongside Curry. They still have core pieces like Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, and Brandon Podziemski. But they've also failed to sign any additional big names in free agency, leaving fans and analysts questioning whether the roster is enough to compete with rising Western Conference powers like the Denver Nuggets, Oklahoma City Thunder, and Minnesota Timberwolves. Over the next 3 hours, we'll break everything down. We'll revisit the 2024-2025 season, analyze the current roster and its strengths and weaknesses, hear from the front office and what management is saying, and examine the pundits' reactions from big names like Stephen A. Smith and Shams Charania. And finally, we'll project what the 2025-2026 season could look like: best case, worst case, and everything in between. The Warriors' 2024-2025 season was defined by ups and downs. They finished the year in the middle of the Western Conference, with a record just above .500. Offensively, they were still a top-half team, averaging around 115 points per game, but defensively they slipped badly, ranking in the bottom third of the league. Stephen Curry remained the heartbeat, averaging 26 points per game on 46/41/91 shooting splits. Even at 36 years old, he was still elite, but his heavy usage made it clear the team lacked secondary scoring. Jonathan Kuminga took a leap forward, averaging 16 points and 6 rebounds, showing improved shooting and defense. His development was one of the few bright spots. Brandon Podziemski emerged as a scrappy playmaker, averaging 11 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 assists, often making winning plays. Draymond Green continued to lead emotionally and as a playmaker, but his scoring dipped below 8 points per game and injuries reduced his availability. The Warriors lacked depth. Their bench rotations were inconsistent, forcing Curry to play heavy minutes. Defensively, they struggled against younger, faster teams like OKC and Sacramento. In the playoffs, Golden State couldn't mount a serious run. Whether falling in the play-in tournament or bowing out early, the outcome was the same: their dynasty days were clearly behind them. Key takeaways from 2024-2025. Curry is still great but needs help. Kuminga and Podziemski are real building blocks. Draymond and Klay are declining. Depth and defense remain glaring weaknesses. As we turn the page to the 2025-2026 season, the Warriors' roster looks different but still intriguing. Stephen Curry. At 37, Curry remains the Warriors' leader. Last season's averages show he hasn't slowed dramatically, but age is always a factor. The front office has stressed load management to preserve him for the postseason. Statistically, Curry is still one of the most efficient high-volume scorers in the NBA. Jimmy Butler. The biggest addition is Jimmy Butler, the 6-time All-Star and 2-time Finals participant. Butler brings toughness, leadership, and playoff experience. His averages of 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists in Miami prove he can still perform. The key question: how will he fit next to Curry in Golden State's motion-heavy offense? Butler excels in isolation and mid-range scoring, areas the Warriors traditionally avoid. But his defense and mentality are exactly what the team needs. Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga is expected to take another leap. Coaches believe he can average close to 18 to 20 points per game this year. His athleticism and improving skill set make him a potential future All-Star. Brandon Podziemski. Podziemski's role will expand. He is projected to become the full-time secondary playmaker next to Curry, giving the team stability when Curry sits. His high basketball IQ makes him a cornerstone. Draymond Green. Draymond is no longer the same defender he once was, but his playmaking and leadership remain vital. He will likely average 6 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists, but his true value lies in anchoring the defense and guiding younger players. The Warriors' bench remains a concern. They have role players, but no true sixth-man spark. The lack of a major free agent signing this offseason raised eyebrows. Management has said financial flexibility and luxury tax constraints limited their moves. Warriors management has made it clear they are committed to building around Curry until he retires. General Manager Mike Dunleavy Jr. has spoken about balancing short-term competitiveness with long-term sustainability. One key storyline: despite fans wanting another big signing, the Warriors have not added another star beyond Jimmy Butler. The reason? The luxury tax. Golden State already has one of the most expensive payrolls in the NBA. Ownership believes the current roster can compete, and they don't want to mortgage the future for a short-term gamble. The front office has also emphasized developing young talent like Kuminga and Podziemski. They see these players as the bridge to the post-Curry era. The media has had plenty to say about the Warriors. Stephen A. Smith argued that the Warriors are clinging to the past, but admitted that adding Jimmy Butler makes them dangerous in the playoffs. If you've got Curry and Butler healthy, you've got a chance. But can they survive the grind of the West? That's the real question. Shams Charania has reported that the Warriors have explored trade options but haven't found the right deal. He noted that financial flexibility is a big challenge. Other analysts have said the Warriors could be anywhere from a top 4 seed to out of the playoffs, depending on health and chemistry. The consensus: Golden State is no longer a guaranteed contender, but no one is counting them out as long as Curry is still playing at a high level. So what should fans expect? Best case scenario: Curry stays healthy, Butler fits seamlessly, Kuminga takes a leap, and the Warriors contend for the Western Conference Finals. Worst case scenario: injuries pile up, Butler struggles to fit, and the Warriors fall into the play-in again. Most likely, Golden State hovers around the 5th to 7th seed in the West, competitive but not dominant. Key matchups will be crucial. The Nuggets remain the team to beat, the Thunder are rising fast, and the Lakers with LeBron and AD still pose a threat. For Curry, this season represents perhaps the last real chance at another title run. The Warriors know the window is closing, and that urgency will define the year. 2026 season will answer one major question: is the Warriors' dynasty truly over, or do they have one more run left? With Curry still elite, Butler bringing toughness, and young players like Kuminga and Podziemski ready to grow, there is hope. But the lack of a big news signing and the decline of veterans like Draymond and Klay raise doubts. For fans, this year is about embracing the journey. It's about celebrating Curry while he's still here, watching the young core develop, and seeing whether Butler can bring his Jimmy Buckets mentality to the Bay. One thing is certain: love them or doubt them, the Golden State Warriors remain one of the most fascinating teams in basketball. Welcome to Dubs Nation Voice. As training camp approaches, the Golden State front office stands pat, but behind the scenes, a flurry of trade possibilities simmers. From a savvy veteran big man to high upside guards and even a pipe dream level MVP, this segment breaks down what trades might happen and what's simply wishful thinking. We'll explore Al Horford and the veteran depth boost, Josh Giddey and a potential sign-and-trade pathway, the fantasy but speculative target, Giannis Antetokounmpo, the hurdle standing in the way, what pundits and reporters are saying. Let's dive in. Al Horford, the veteran upgrade. Rumor rundown. Al Horford, 39, unrestricted free agent after a solid stint with Boston. Warriors are the frontrunners for his services. He's praised for his shooting, floor spacing, rebounding, veteran leadership, and playoff know-how. A traditional fit for playoffs. Stephen Curry himself subtly hinted at Horford's arrival, dropping praise during a public appearance. Strategic fit. Horford brings size and shooting to a thin frontcourt. He can guard multiple positions and enable younger wings like Kuminga more freedom. CBA cap implications. Warriors likely to use the taxpayer mid-level exception, around $5.7 million. Jonathan Kuminga's unresolved RFA situation is holding everything up. The team can't fully move forward until that clears. Bottom line, Horford is the most realistic trade/tweak the Warriors could make right now: veteran savvy, spacing, and a bridge to youth. Josh Giddey, the high-upside playmaker. Rumor rundown. The Warriors are exploring a sign-and-trade involving Josh Giddey, sending Kuminga to Chicago. Reports suggest Bulls aren't keen on a sign-and-trade, making logistics messy. Public forums even call the rumor fake news, reflecting how speculative it feels to many. Strategic fit. Giddey offers size, playmaking, and secondary ball handling. Pairing him with Curry could create an exciting backcourt. A Curry off-ball scenario that would diversify offense. The hurdles. Chicago's reluctance is a major roadblock. Including Buddy Hield or Moses Moody might solve salary matching, but Warriors may be unwilling to part with either. A Giddey deal is ambitious and intriguing, but far from likely this early in the season. Giannis Antetokounmpo, the unicorn trade. Rumor rundown. Warriors have deliberately held on to assets, waiting for even a slight chance of Giannis becoming available. But recent reporting shows the Bucks have made no moves to trade Giannis, dismissing inquiries. Why it makes sense in theory. Pairing Giannis' interior dominance with Curry's shooting would be mind-blowing. Takings like Kuminga, Podziemski, and future picks would be valuable assets for Milwaukee. The reality check. Bucks have no intention of doing it at the moment. Giannis still under contract, with no trade demand. It's a fantasy scenario more than a next-week possibility. Jonathan Kuminga's story with the Golden State Warriors has now reached a boiling point. From a promising draft pick to a key young piece on a dynasty roster, Kuminga has always been caught between two realities: the future star he believes he can be, and the limited role he has been asked to play. Now, as negotiations drag on, the question isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about power, opportunity, and identity. Will Kuminga finally take control of his destiny, or will the Warriors front office force him into a corner? This is not just a contract saga, it's a battle for respect, relevance, and the future of a franchise that has defined the NBA for the last decade. Born in Goma, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Jonathan Kuminga's journey to the NBA is nothing short of extraordinary. From a young age, his size and athleticism drew attention. But unlike many of his peers, Kuminga had to leave home and travel across continents in pursuit of his basketball dream. He arrived in the United States as a teenager, raw but filled with potential, enrolling at the Patrick School in New Jersey, a program known for producing NBA talent. Scouts were immediately intrigued. His physical gifts, strength, leaping ability, quickness, were undeniable. Yet there were questions. Could he develop the skills? Could he adapt to the structure of high-level American basketball? Instead of going to college, Kuminga made a bold move, joining the NBA G League Ignite program. This decision, at the time, was risky. He bet on himself, believing that training against professionals would prepare him faster than NCAA competition. And for the most part, it worked. Scouts saw flashes of brilliance, step-back jumpers, highlight dunks, defensive versatility. By the time of the 2021 NBA Draft, he was seen as one of the highest upside prospects available. The Warriors, with the 7th overall pick, saw the opportunity. They were a team stuck in transition. Steph Curry was still at the height of his powers, but Klay Thompson was recovering from back-to-back major injuries, and the roster desperately needed youth. Drafting Kuminga was not just about the present, it was about building a bridge into the future. Early years in Golden State. Kuminga's rookie season was full of ups and downs. On some nights, he barely played. On others, he exploded off the bench, showing flashes that reminded fans of a young Kawhi Leonard or Jaylen Brown. His ability to guard multiple positions, run the floor, and finish above the rim made him a fan favorite almost immediately. By his second year, however, frustration started to grow. While Kuminga improved statistically, averaging more points and playing with greater confidence, his role under Steve Kerr remained inconsistent. Kerr, known for relying on veterans, often turned to players like Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Looney, and Draymond Green in crucial moments, leaving Kuminga on the sidelines. This was especially clear in the playoffs, where his minutes often disappeared despite regular season growth. To many observers, Kuminga represented the classic dilemma for the Warriors: should they commit fully to their veteran core, or should they invest in their young stars like Kuminga, James Wiseman, and Moses Moody? The contract saga unfolds. Fast forward to the summer of 2025. Kuminga is now a restricted free agent, and the standoff has begun. The Warriors have put a 2-year, $45 million offer on the table. On paper, it looks generous. But the fine print matters. The second year comes with a team option. To Kuminga and his agent, Aaron Turner, this is unacceptable. They want a player option, which gives Kuminga control. Control is everything here. If the team holds the option, Kuminga risks being stuck in the same frustrating role for another year, unable to explore opportunities elsewhere. If he has the player option, he can reassess his future, look for better fits, and potentially command a bigger contract. The qualifying offer complicates everything. Worth $7.9 million for one season, it allows Kuminga to hit unrestricted free agency the following summer. But it's a dangerous gamble. If he gets injured, or if his role continues to shrink, his market value could plummet. Still, the Warriors fear this option more than Kuminga does. If he signs it, they lose trade flexibility and risk watching him leave for nothing in 2026. This tug-of-war over options and leverage is not just financial. It reflects the deeper mistrust between the two sides. Kuminga feels undervalued. The Warriors fear overcommitting to a player they haven't fully trusted. The Jimmy Butler factor. This offseason, the Warriors made another bold move, trading for Jimmy Butler. On paper, Butler gives them another battle-tested veteran to chase one more championship with Curry and Draymond. But for Kuminga, Butler's arrival might be the final straw. Where does he fit now? If Butler plays big minutes at forward, Kuminga's path to a starting role becomes even narrower. Fans and analysts see the writing on the wall. Some argue that the Warriors don't really see Kuminga as part of their long-term future, and that he's more valuable as a trade asset. Others believe Golden State risks repeating the mistakes of the past, choosing short-term security over developing the next generation. Trade rumors and interest around the league. Reports indicate that teams like the Sacramento Kings and Phoenix Suns have already shown serious interest in Kuminga. Both franchises envision him as their power forward of the future, offering him not just money but a clear role. Unlike Golden State, they would hand him the keys to grow without fear of being benched behind veterans. The problem? Any deal requires the Warriors' approval. A sign-and-trade could work, but Golden State has been reluctant. After all, they know how talented Kuminga is, and losing him for the wrong package could haunt them. Yet the clock is ticking, and every day without resolution increases the tension. Lessons from the past. The specter of Nerlens Noel looms over this saga. In 2017, Noel turned down a $70 million offer from Dallas, betting on himself with a $4.1 million qualifying offer. That gamble backfired spectacularly after injuries and inconsistent play, and Noel never regained the same earning power. Kuminga's camp knows the risks, but they argue his situation is different. He's younger, healthier, and more productive than Noel was at that stage. He's also in a league that increasingly values athletic forwards who can guard multiple positions. The financial gap he risks is smaller, and he's confident he can earn far more long-term. The bigger picture. This saga isn't just about one player. It's a snapshot of the modern NBA. More than ever, young players are asserting control over their futures. Team options, once standard, are now points of contention. The power dynamic has shifted. For the Warriors, this is also about identity. They built a dynasty on loyalty and continuity. But can they afford to alienate their best young talent? If they cling too tightly to the past, they risk compromising the future. If they bet too heavily on improving youth, they risk wasting the twilight years of Curry's career. So where does this leave Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors? With training camp just weeks away, the standoff feels unsustainable. Either the Warriors cave and give him a player option, or Kuminga takes the qualifying offer and sets up a season of constant drama. The nightmare for Golden State would be losing him for nothing while watching him blossom elsewhere. For Kuminga, the decision is about belief. Does he trust himself enough to gamble on the qualifying offer? Or does he compromise now for stability? What's certain is this: the resolution of Kuminga's contract saga will not only define his career but could reshape the entire Warriors dynasty. The stakes are enormous, and the next move could change everything. The 2025-2026 NBA season is here, and few teams draw as much attention as the Golden State Warriors. Once the unquestioned kings of basketball, the Warriors now stand at a crossroads. With Steph Curry still dazzling crowds at age 37, Jimmy Butler entering the twilight of his career, and Draymond Green battling both age and injuries, the story of Golden State this year is one of both hope and looming uncertainty. ESPN's biggest voices have all weighed in on the Warriors, and their reactions capture the complicated picture of a dynasty fighting to extend its life in a league that is faster, younger, and hungrier than ever. Stephen A. Smith, never one to hold back his emotions, opened his analysis with fire. He reminded fans that while Curry remains the greatest shooter in history, the Warriors have leaned on him far too heavily. He shouted that Golden State can no longer pretend that Steph alone can deliver championships, because the roster around him is older, thinner, and far less intimidating than it once was. His voice rose as he pointed out the contradiction. A team once known for its youth, depth, and fluid system is now banking on Jimmy Butler, a tough competitor but a player who has struggled with injuries and who is closer to 40 than 30. For Stephen A., the Kuminga contract drama is a flashing red light. This young man wants respect, and he deserves it, Smith raged. But the Warriors treat him like trade bait instead of a cornerstone. That is going to explode in their faces if they're not careful. Kendrick Perkins followed in his slower, heavier tone, but his words were just as sharp. Perkins emphasized that the fear factor is gone. In 2017, teams would step into Oracle Arena already beaten in spirit. In 2025, teams walk into Chase Center believing they can win. Perkins repeated that Golden State can't ignore youth forever. If you want this thing to last, he said, you don't just keep throwing money at older guys. You lock up Kuminga, you let him grow, you let him make mistakes. You can't expect Steph and Jimmy to play 65 games at elite level while Draymond's holding his body together with duct tape. His take was blunt: either Golden State embraces its young core, or the dynasty is finished. Brian Windhorst took a different route, calmly breaking the situation down like a chessboard. He explained that this season is not just about basketball, it's about business. The Warriors have carried one of the highest payrolls in sports history, paying luxury taxes that dwarf most teams' budgets. Ownership has supported it so far because banners were going up, but now, with championships no longer guaranteed, that spending has come into question. Windhorst warned that the addition of Jimmy Butler is a sign the front office chose the present over the future, betting on Curry's final years instead of investing in Kuminga and the other young players. He noted that such decisions create tension: young talent feels expendable, and veterans feel pressure to deliver quickly. Windhorst framed the situation as a timeline collision, one that could define the franchise for the next decade. Richard Jefferson, in his usual playful but sharp style, compared the Warriors to the 2015 Spurs. Steph Curry is Tim Duncan, still brilliant but older. Jimmy Butler is Manu Ginobili in his last years, full of fire but limited by time. Draymond Green is Tony Parker, still smart but physically declining. And Jonathan Kuminga, Jefferson argued, was supposed to be their Kawhi Leonard, the bridge to the next era. But the difference, Jefferson said, is that the Spurs fully trusted Kawhi. The Warriors, by contrast, still haven't committed to Kuminga, leaving their future hanging in the balance. Jefferson's point was simple. Without a clear bridge from Steph's era to what comes next, Golden State risks collapsing the moment Curry steps away. The debate between these analysts turned into a spirited back-and-forth about strengths and weaknesses. Everyone agreed that Curry is still elite, still capable of changing a game with one shot, still the most feared shooter alive. Jimmy Butler, when healthy, gives them toughness and a competitive edge. Steve Kerr's system of ball movement and spacing is still among the league's smartest. But the weaknesses were just as glaring: age, health, and inconsistency on defense. Younger teams like Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and even Houston no longer look at Golden State with fear. Instead, they see opportunity. As the conversation unfolded, predictions began to surface. Stephen A. insisted that while the Warriors would make the playoffs, they were not the favorites in the West. Perkins went further, warning that without solving the Kuminga situation, Golden State could be staring at a first-round exit. Windhorst added a note of intrigue, suggesting that the trade deadline would be critical. If Kuminga remained unhappy, the Warriors might flip him for another veteran to maximize Curry's window. Jefferson, always the realist, said the team's fate depends entirely on Curry's health. If he misses significant time, their season is over. If he stays healthy, they remain dangerous but no longer dominant. The longer the discussion went on, the clearer the themes became. The Warriors are not just another basketball team, they are a dynasty grappling with mortality. Their biggest stars are aging, their payroll is bloated, and their young players feel undervalued. Yet at the same time, their culture, their system, and above all, their superstar Steph Curry, keep them relevant in a league that has already moved on to younger faces. The pundits circled back to the central tension. Golden State has to decide whether to fight for one last championship with its aging core, or to finally embrace a transition that has been delayed for years. In closing, the ESPN panel agreed on one thing: the Warriors will be one of the most fascinating stories of the 2025-26 NBA season. They may rise again, powered by Curry's brilliance and Butler's toughness, or they may fall, undone by age, contracts, and the unforgiving pace of time. Either way, the cameras will be fixed on them, because even in decline, the Golden State Warriors remain a team that commands attention. The cameras flashed as Steph Curry stepped to the podium, smiling in that familiar way that has calmed Warriors fans for more than a decade. But behind the grin, everyone could sense the weight of the moment. At 37 years old, Curry knows this season could be his last real shot at adding another championship banner to Chase Center. When reporters asked how he felt going into the 2025-2026 campaign, Steph's voice carried both confidence and urgency. He spoke about discipline, about staying in the best shape possible, about embracing the challenge of proving that Golden State still belongs in the title conversation. "I hear people saying we're done, that we're too old, that the game has passed us by," he said, his tone rising slightly. "That's fine. I've heard it before. Every time people count us out, we find a way to remind them who we are." Coach Steve Kerr, sitting just a few feet away, nodded slowly as Curry spoke. Kerr has been the architect of this dynasty, blending egos, guiding stars, and reshaping basketball itself with his system of ball movement, spacing, and unselfishness. But even he admits this season is different. "We know the margin for error is smaller now," Kerr told reporters. "When you've been to the mountaintop as many times as we have, you also know how hard it is to get back there. But I believe in this group. Steph is still playing at an MVP level. We've got Jimmy Butler bringing his toughness, Draymond setting the tone defensively, and young guys who are hungry to prove themselves. The ingredients are there, we just have to cook the right way." What struck observers most was not just the words, but the determination in their delivery. Curry's preparation this off-season had been relentless. Teammates described his workouts as obsessive, noting that he had trimmed his body to maintain quickness and sharpened his stamina for another 80-game grind. He spent hours perfecting footwork, adjusting his release for tighter windows, and studying defensive schemes of younger, more athletic guards who now dominate the league. Every year I try to find something new to sharpen," Curry explained. "The league gets better. If I stay the same, I fall behind. So I've worked on playing off the ball even more, finding ways to move without it, because that's what's going to keep me dangerous as I get older." Kerr's preparation mirrored that of his star player. Known as a coach who thrives on innovation, he spent the summer revisiting film from not just Golden State, but also from teams like Oklahoma City, Minnesota, and Boston, the new powers of the NBA. "We've got to adjust to the league as it is now, not the league we dominated in 2017, Kerr said candidly. "That means faster pace, more versatile defense, and better use of our bench." His staff designed schemes to balance Butler's grit with Curry's finesse, hoping to craft lineups that could withstand the physicality of younger rosters while still unleashing the Warriors' signature shooting. Still, both Curry and Kerr acknowledged the looming questions. Could Draymond Green stay healthy and avoid the suspensions that had haunted him in recent years? Could Jimmy Butler play enough games to be a real difference-maker in May and June? Would Jonathan Kuminga resolve his contract standoff, or would it become a distraction that tore at the locker room? "We know what people are saying," Curry admitted. "They doubt us. They say our time is up. But that's the fuel. I don't want to end my career wondering if we had one more run in us. I want to find out right now." Kerr, ever the realist but also the optimist, put it another way. "This team has heart. That's what people forget. Championships don't just belong to the youngest or the fastest. They belong to the teams that refuse to break. And we've been tested more than anyone. If there's one group that knows how to survive the marathon of an NBA season, it's us." As training camp approached, the bond between coach and player seemed stronger than ever. Curry, the superstar who has carried the franchise for over a decade, and Kerr, the coach who orchestrated 4 championships, stood united. Their voices, their preparation,